Hi, I'm Rob.
And I'm Angie.
And together, we are TwinFinity.
We are Twin Flames, back with another Creating Union video. It's actually been quite a while since we did one of these.
Feels like about 3 weeks.
Well, last one was when we were snowshoeing at Emerald Lake. That was like a month ago, wasn't it?
Oh boy. Yeah, okay. We fell off the pace.
Apparently. I blame it on Ascension. Oh my dear God, I know so many people have been feeling the energies and they've just been kicking my butt. As you've seen in my short little videos I've been doing, I just look a bit dreadful because, yeah, it's been rough. But anyway.
She never looks dreadful.
Only a twin flame would say that.
Well,
now we get to hold hands.
Yeah.
Okay. Since we have to sit far apart so we don't wreck our hearts.
Yes.
So this Creating Union video is about trust. Why? We're actually going to do this video on play, but because of a question we got and a comment we got from somebody and a question we kind of often get, we were guided to change and do a video on trust. So eventually we will do a Creating Union video on play, but not tonight. So, talking about trust, why, you may ask, does trust have to do with union? And first of all, let's go back a step and explain, just as a reminder, since it's been a while since we've done one of these, what we're talking about when we mean union. So first of all, in this series, we're talking about union within, because you can't have union with anybody else if you don't have union with yourself. So first and foremost, we're always talking about union within, then union with your twin if that's something you desire, and then of course union with everybody, because as our world is evolving and ascending, we are all moving into unity consciousness. That's where we're going. That's the whole point of this journey, is we're all blending into union.
Yes. That's all I can just say is
okay,
yes.
You were breathing. I thought you had something to say.
Nope. You're doing great.
Okay. So then you might ask, well, what does trust have to do with union? Well, much like love, you can only trust another to the degree that you trust yourself. So we must first learn to trust ourselves so we can trust others. And when we are in a place of trust, we're open. You know how if you don't trust, you're kind of closed, you're walled off, you don't want to talk to anybody, you don't want to open up, you don't want to share, you don't want to kind of divulge too much because you're afraid of getting hurt. Well, how can you be in union with anybody, yourself or anybody else, when you're in that kind of a place? So to be in union with anybody, yourself, your twin, or anybody else, you got to be open. And when we're trusting, we're in a place of openness.
Trust is, next to love, I think it's one of my most important words. I always come back to it. For without trust, you can't really have forgiveness either, because to have forgiveness, it's about rebuilding trust. Also, without trust, it's hard to have courage. And sometimes very much of a journey is about having courage. Blind faith is another form of trust, where you don't have enough evidence to believe what you perceive to be the truth, but you go with it anyway. That's another form of trust. So whether you're dealing with spirit, which some would say would be a form of blind faith, because it's very hard to know spirit directly, although some people do very well in connecting with spirit. That's a form of trust. Trusting others, and especially if they've failed, or if you failed in their eyes, to be able to start to trust them again. And also, when you have failed, when you've let yourself down or let yourself down in the eyes of others, to retrust again, to step forward with a whole new set of self and rebuild trust, it's such a cornerstone for so many other forms of healing. So trust is a great place to start. If you wear your trust on your sleeve, you know you're going to get burned once in a while, because not everything goes according to plan. Not everything does.
No.
So
most things don't.
I mean, when you take those leaps of faith and you trust someone else or something else, and it doesn't turn out well, That's where you learn to grow back into being in a place of trust, because usually any path you're on, if you're going to stay on it for any length of time, it's going to have stumbling points, but it's also going to have more than those stumbling points, or else you would not be able to perceive that you're moving forward. And that, to stay on a path that will occasionally let you down, requires trust. Without the path, you tend not to have growth. So trust and growth, two very big words, work hand in hand.
Yeah. And just to clarify again, with all of these creating union videos, there isn't a step-by-step process. So it's not like you have to learn to trust and then you learn this and then you learn that. They're all much like an onion layer. So we're always learning to trust. We're always evolving in our trust, just like we're evolving in all the other topics that we've addressed in our Creating Union series. So just remember that it's not like, okay, I've evolved and I've gotten trust, now I can master something else. It's always changing, we're always learning, we're always growing.
I just had another thought. You mentioned onion layer. I think of it as a giant, thick, braided rope, where as the braids come through from the inside to the outside, as this rope is sliding through your hands, a portion of the rope that was on the inside then becomes the outside. So sometimes you're hanging on to love, sometimes you're hanging on to trust, sometimes you're hanging on to perspective, sometimes you're hanging on to the belief of others. But as that rope, be it a rope of time or a rope of education, slides through your hands, sometimes what you were hanging on to last time is now the middle of the rope, and then it comes to the outside again, and then back to the middle and back to the outside.
That's cool. Did you just come up with that?
Just came up with that.
Your channelings?
Yeah, I get these messages. No, rope. Okay, I'll go with it. I'll trust it.
Brilliant. Brilliant. So, of course, we have notes, and I really have to read my notes this time because we were guided to change our topic. We had, like, as I say, we were planning to do this video on the weekend, and we were ready with our play. We had our art, we were all ready to go, and then it was changed.
So we've had very little prep time.
That's right.
Not like we spend a lot of time in prep time.
We mostly go with
we wing it.
And it's also just our own experience, right? A lot of this is my own experience too. So first tip on developing trust, and again, this is first and foremost trust with yourself, is develop a relationship with yourself. How can you trust yourself if you don't know yourself, right? It's the same thing with somebody else. How do you trust someone if you don't know them? First thing is connect with yourself. And of course, there's many ways you can do that. One is through meditation. Just by quieting yourself and like I always say, my favorite words, going within. Know that from me. When you learn to connect with your soul self, your higher self, your inner being, then you get that guidance. And then you can learn to trust that guidance.
I do it almost exactly the opposite. And this is where people come through with their various balances.
This is where you can tell we don't rehearse.
No, I had no idea she was going to say that, and I'm going, wait a minute, that's not at all how I do this. Quieting yourself, no. I go out, I challenge myself, I push myself to the limits. I go out for a run till I'm just about ready to not be able to run anymore. Big long bike rides. I do those things. And from that point, when I have various forms of success, then I learn to trust that my inner strength can carry me beyond numerous challenges that I throw at myself. So that is another topic. It's called balance. I learn to trust one way. Angie learns to trust another.
And this is
together we're TwinFinity.
Extrovert. Introvert goes within. Extrovert goes out.
I challenge externally. She challenges internally.
There you go. So if you're an introvert, you might want to get to know yourself by going within. If you're an extrovert, you're going to go externally to get to know yourself. It all works. There might even be more of that, more extroverted stuff on the list, though, too. Another thing is get in touch with your feelings, because the feelings are the language of the soul, right? So often we don't trust ourselves because we don't know how to trust our feelings. We don't even know we have feelings. We've learned to shut off. A lot of us that don't trust or have issues with trust have often been abused, come from abusive situations. So we've shut off from like here down, and we all we know how to do is think, right? We live up here. We don't feel, we think. So when you can tap into your feelings, they are your barometer. When your stomach is in knots, when you're meeting somebody, that's a guidance. That's like a, hey, pay attention. There's something not right here. When you feel calm, when you notice yourself breathing relaxed, when you're around somebody, take note of that. That might mean, I feel good around this person. I feel really safe around this person. All those things are little signs, but we don't often pay attention to them because we have learned to shut off our body and not listen to it.
Comfortable. I trust.
This is normal, by the way. We don't just do this for a video. We'll be driving down the road and we'll do that. It's adorable. So cute. Another way to get to know yourself and have a relationship with yourself is ask yourself questions. What do I think about this? How do I feel about that? When we sort of push ourselves to think and feel about something, then we can get an answer back. If we're not even going to ask ourselves, how do we know? How do we know how we feel about something or think about something? We don't. Another big one, and we're not going to go too deep into this because that could be a whole other video, which we have actually done a video on, is connecting with your inner child. That goes a bit with the body stuff and feeling, kind of feeling what's happening. But also learn to connect and listen to your inner child because they have so much wisdom. And when we learn to connect with our inner child and develop a relationship with our inner child, they learn to trust us, we learn to trust them. It sounds kind of crazy when you talk about your inner child as a whole other being, but they kind of are. It's a weird dynamic.
As per our next video, the inner child and play are very closely linked.
Yes.
And learning to play is also learning how to trust.
Yes, very much so. Very much so. So number 2 is be your own best friend. We are often, when we don't trust ourselves, we're very unkind to ourselves. And we don't treat ourselves very nicely. And then how can we trust others when we treat ourselves poorly? Because then we think everybody else is going to give us the same treatment. If we can't respect ourselves, we can't really think anybody else is going to respect us. So then we wall off because we think, well, nobody's going to be kind to me. That was my situation for sure, right? I had this person that loved me dearly, yet I couldn't open up to it because I had so many blocks in my own self because I couldn't love myself. I couldn't treat myself with kindness. So it's very important to learn to value yourself. Learn to be kind to yourself. And Rob's going to have a comment to this one that I'm going to say next.
Uh-oh.
Speak kindly to yourself. And what do I do when people don't speak kindly to themselves?
You ask them, I don't use the word make them, you ask them to say 3 kind things to themselves in return for the one way that they insulted themselves.
Yes. So become very aware of your inner talk, your language that you speak to yourself with. Because again, how do you trust yourself if you don't even like yourself? If you're like, oh, I'm so stupid. Well, guess what? If you think you're stupid, you're also going to think everybody else thinks you're stupid. And you're not going to trust anybody else if you think they think you're stupid.
Now, there's a little bit of a fine line in there. I know a person in my existence here where, and it's not Angie, where this person will be self-critical, but it's in a way of acknowledging that they know better and that they're going to try harder to be better next time. So it's a form of self-criticism, but it's also a form of self-encouragement. So sometimes if you're giving yourself heck, it can still be leaning towards a more positive outcome next time, depending upon whether you're coaching yourself or scolding yourself.
Yes, I think those are the perfect words, coaching versus scolding.
Yes.
If you're beating yourself up, that's not kindness. If you're coaching yourself, going, okay, well, that wasn't the best way to handle it, but next time we'll do this.
That actually shows that you actually trust that you can do better next time.
Yes.
So coaching is better than scolding.
Yes, I like that. You trust that you can do better next time.
Yes.
That's so beautiful. Another important one is keep your commitments. And this is mostly to yourself. Often, again, as empaths, we make commitments to other people and then we have to break them because we're like, oh, I can't do this today, right? I need my space. I need my alone time. Again, I'm talking about us empaths, not us out there people that are like loving the whole world and ready to charge head. But some of us need to break commitments. So I'm more talking about keeping your commitments to yourself. So if you have a commitment that, okay, every morning I'm going to get up and I'm going to meditate, or I'm going to exercise, or I'm going to eat this specific food to help me.
Or if you have all three when you get up in the morning.
Well, yes. I was just starting small, though, giving little examples, not all of them. Start small, too, with your commitments. Don't dive into all of them, because then we don't commit to anything, right?
Unless you trust you can actually accomplish all of them.
You're so funny. So when you can keep to a commitment, that helps you develop your trust in yourself. If you're constantly breaking your commitments to yourself, do you feel like you trust yourself? Probably not. So that's another little piece. And this is where, going back to what you were saying, I have on here, be gentle with yourself and don't beat yourself up for your mistakes. So yes, like you're saying, acknowledge, okay, I didn't do as good there as I could have, but don't beat yourself up over it. Just recognize it and go, next time I will do better. Use it as a stepping stone instead of a breaking stone.
Okay.
Okay?
Sure.
That breaking wasn't the right word, but I couldn't think of the right word. The bashing stone, or I don't know. Never mind.
Bashing.
Okay. Just sounds like a harsh word.
It is.
I don't like it.
Mm.
Number 3 is be decisive. So of course, when we don't trust ourselves, we're like back and forth. Okay, I want to do this. No, I don't want to do this. Okay, I want this, but I don't want that. We don't even know how to make a decision because we don't trust that we can make the right decision. So just make a decision and then stick with it. And often our first decision is the right one. You know how you make a decision and then you're like, oh, was that the right one? Oh, I don't know. If we just go with what we first thought, that's it. Intuition knows best.
And also be prepared to forgive yourself, because making a decision is sometimes very, very hard for people. I could say I've learned the hard way, but I've learned to make a decision, go with it, and sometimes when you think you've made a firm decision, there still is a spot along the way, if that decision is starting not to work, where you can change your decision. Not every decision you make has to be stuck with to the very end, although it is not a bad mantra to stick with a decision until that decision becomes unworkable.
Yeah.
And that actually gives you a chance to experience why a decision maybe wasn't the best choice to be made. If as soon as you make a decision, if you sense a little bit of trouble, you step away from it, you sometimes step away from the opportunity to learn why the decision at a deeper level was not going to work. Sometimes it doesn't look good, but then it still turns out okay. Sometimes if you carry through that decision to almost a breaking point, you learn a lot more from it.
Yes.
So make a decision and try to stick with it as a learning experience if it's just not turning out to be that great, up until the point you start to hurt yourself. Then, of course, that's time to change the decision. But don't be afraid to trust that there's some education involved.
I was just going to say, know that there's no mistakes. Even if you make the wrong decision, it's not wrong because it's a learning tool.
Very much. Very much. I am building a model train set. And I have made some decisions. Now, I'm talking not just a little 4x8 sheet of plywood. I'm talking like 1,000-hour project. And I've made some decisions where I've had to take 10 hours worth of work, tear it all back up, start over again because I can finish with a couple of tracks that are 1 or 2 inches different than where they were before, but much more effective. And the amount of stuff that I've learned, it's beautiful. But I've had to make some decisions and then break some decisions and go back and remake them. But the next time I run into situations like the ones I've had to tear up and try over again with, I've made some other decisions that have been much better. I've learned to trust through experience.
The reason I'm sitting here laughing is because the little video I did by myself last night.
Yeah?
Kind of on this topic. If you haven't seen it, it's out. Go watch it. In fact, it might be worth watching before this one, but if you're watching this one and I'm telling you to watch
Too
that one,
late.
it's too late, exactly. But it's okay.
Trust that it's okay to watch it later.
Totally. But in that one, I was mentioning you were banging away, and I said, if you're hearing any like hammering or noises or whatever I said, it's just Rob downstairs. He's building a model train set.
Yeah.
So here you are telling them the same thing. That's so funny.
Not that anybody would understand, but it's an HO scale train set, and it's going to have about 250 to 300 feet of track.
It's crazy.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, our poor garage.
Yeah. So on the thing of being decisive, the last comment I had was learn from your mistakes, which there you go.
You covered that.
Totally covered that. Yeah. Brilliant. So number 4 is build on your strengths. Often when we don't trust ourselves, part of why we don't trust ourselves is because all we focus on is all the things we may have done wrong, or we didn't choose right, or we don't know how to do. But if you can look at all the things you've done right and focus on those things, or focus on the things that you're very skilled at, and look at all the ways that you are succeeding, then you learn to build trust in yourself and know, hey, I am doing a good job. Okay, maybe I don't do so good in that yet, but in this, I do awesome. And then build on those.
Confidence.
Yes, exactly. I had something else to say. Now I lost it.
There's lots there.
There is lots there. So yeah, I also have said when your intuition is right. So when you guess something right, celebrate that. And then the next time it'll be easier. Oftentimes we don't trust because we think, oh no, that's not really my intuition. That's not really my guidance. That's not really my higher self telling me. But then when we look back, if we realize that, oh, yes, it was, look at that and then use that as a stepping stone to build off of, so that next time you can go, okay, that worked last time. I was able to get that information and it was correct. So maybe it'll be correct this time too. I find often a lot of people that are healers, when they're first starting out and they get intuition or guidance, they're like, oh, I'm afraid to say this to the client because, oh, what if I'm wrong? What if I direct them wrong? I've learned, you know what, just say it. And if you're wrong, so what? You're wrong. It's okay. But 9 out of 10 times we are right. And then the client goes, yeah, like, how did you know that? And then that's affirmation that, see, I was right. And then you build on that.
Or right enough.
Exactly.
You
might not have all the pieces.
No, again, sometimes you only have partial clues. But you got to go with what you know. You really do.
Yeah.
I know when I've been talking with people, I set aside my fears that I'm not going to sound like I have an idea of what I'm talking about, or I'm afraid I'm going to answer a question completely wrong because I missed the point of a question. I don't worry about that. I say what I perceive and feel is the right thing to say, and then I go with it from there. If it resonates with people, great. If it doesn't, I guess that's sometimes going to happen too.
Yeah.
From the feedback I get, I've learned to trust that most people enjoy what I have to say. Good enough, I go with it.
Exactly.
And it also feels good too.
It feels good. There you go. I can't stop looking at my hair because it's like
Yeah,
purple.
we've
So fun.
you got a bit of purple, bit of pink.
I know. I love it.
I got a glow on the side of my head too, and not just because I just got a haircut and everything's glowing off the top of my head.
Funny. So, did I cover everything on that one? Yes. So last tip is remember who you really are. Oftentimes we don't trust ourselves because we think of ourselves as small. We think of ourselves as some insignificant human. But if we really remembered the grandness of who we are, we would trust ourselves all the time. I love how Abraham Hicks puts it, and I have to read this to make sure I get it right. You are source energy. You are infinite intelligence. We are. That is so true. And if we are source energy and infinite intelligence, how can we not trust ourselves? How can we not trust everybody else? Because they are too. And how can you not be in union with yourself, your twin, and everyone else? Because we are all infinite intelligence. We are all source energy. Isn't that beautiful? I love those words. I love how Abraham Hicks says that. It's just perfect.
You start to gain a little trust and confidence with yourself when you can do, well, for example, again, my own personal experience, I can go stand on the top of a mountain and have a conversation with the soul of that mountain. And when you realize you're talking with a few million tons of rock and you feel like you've had an intelligent conversation with the mountain and with Mother Nature and various other forms of spirit, and you don't feel insignificant.
Oh.
You feel like you've been able to communicate and be understood and also understand. So to trust that you can communicate with more than just what is you would normally call living beings. Know that everything has energy and everything, therefore, is a portion of source.
Totally.
When you trust in those abilities to communicate it, however you do it, it gives you that little bit of understanding that you are part of it and that you matter.
Yes.
And trust that.
Yes, that you matter. I love that you said it that way because you do matter. You are a piece of source. You are a part of infinite intelligence. And if infinite intelligence matters and is matter, then you matter.
I would trust that. That's very good words.
Rob's very funny.
Yeah, I love this word.
Yes. So yeah, just going with that is it's important then to tap into that higher wisdom, that higher knowledge that is within you, because you are it. It is inside of you. So you have the ability easily to connect with it and learn then to trust it, because your higher self, your soul, your inner being is never going to steer you wrong. We may sometimes hear wrong, and that's okay. That's part of the learning, right? But when we learn more and more to listen, hear, and trust the inner guidance, man, does it take us far. One last thing I wanted to address.
We have a dog.
Yes, we do. Oh, look at that. She's in a new spot.
Hi.
You always get to meet Cookie when we do this series on the couch. I'm not going to go too deep into this, but I wanted to just give, as part of remembering who you really are and connecting with the infinite intelligence within, another example is muscle testing. If you've ever heard of muscle testing, it's learning to use your body as a tool, because infinite intelligence is inside of us. It's not just above us, right? It's in here.
Excuse me while I move a dog. Come here, Cookie. Come down here.
So there's many ways to muscle test. I'm going to give you my favorite, and you can Google research more of them. I'm going to be talking more about this when I do a video, one of the ones that I've been doing by myself. Somebody has requested that I share what I eat in a day. So I will eventually do that video, and I will be talking about
Not me.
muscle testing. No, we're not going to talk about what you eat a day.
Lucky to be alive with what I eat in a day.
Yeah. So when I do that video, I will share more about what I do and how I muscle test foods to know if they resonate with me or not. But just a quick example of muscle testing for you, what I often will do is hold something. If, for example, if it's something that I'm unsure of, is this for me or not? I will hold it and ask, and if my body moves forward with it, that's a yes. If my body moves away, that's a no. So that's just a simple, quick way. So you can even do that with, other things. It doesn't have to be an actual item. You can ask a specific question and get an answer. There's also other ways to do that. Some people like to do it this way, and they'll just put their two fingers together. And if you ask the question and you can't pull your hands apart, that's often your yes. And if you can easily pull your hands apart, that's your no.
This is very much like body talk principles.
Totally. Very, very much so. Yeah. It's because your body knows the truth, right? The energy is inside of you. So without getting in here so much, if we can get away from the thinking and just go with the body, it will give us our answers. So there's a couple ways. There's many different ways to muscle test, but that's just a few little examples. So again, there's many, many different ways to trust yourselves, and we always ask you in these videos to share your tips, share how you do things, so we can all learn, because we're certainly not exhausting this topic with our stuff, and we're not saying we have all the answers. There's many different ways to do things, and we'd love to hear yours. Also, speaking of sharing, we would love it if you would share this video. We don't often ask people to share our videos, but we have been with these ones because we're not just talking about creating union with yourself or even your twin. We're talking about union consciousness. That is where we are all going. We are all starting to blend together to become one. So the more we share, the more we help each other. So if this video resonated with you, if it was helpful for you and you think it would be helpful for someone else, feel free to share it. We're always happy if you share any of our videos. We just don't always invite and ask that, but you're welcome to always. And I think that's all I have to say.
Yeah, I don't have anything else.
All right. Well, then we're going to say good night or good morning or whatever it is for you.
All right.
But we'll say goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.